The May 21st, 2025 meeting of the Special Joint City Council and Redevelopment Agency budget is called to order. This meeting has been properly noticed and posted in compliance with the open meeting law. These proceedings are being video recorded and can be viewed live on the City of Las Vegas TV on Cox Cable Channel 2. You can also watch the meeting live online and access other city content by visiting lasvegasnevada.gov/connect. The proceedings will be broadcast on the City of Las Vegas TV the Wednesday of the meeting at 8 p.m., also on Friday at 4 a.m., Saturday at 7 p.m., Sunday at 7 a.m., and the following Monday at 5 p.m. For public comment related to the items on the agenda, citizen participation and public hearing items, we have available a speaker card which you can complete and submit to the city clerk. Cards are available in the clerk's office or at the rear of the chambers. If you do not submit a card, it does not prevent you from speaking under public comment, citizens participation, or specified public hearing items. If there is anyone present today that has a need for hearing impaired equipment, please see the city clerk's staff. Please note, if you parked in the city parking garage across the street, a self-validation machine is located in the foyer between City Council chambers and the security desk you walk through to enter these chambers. You must have your ticket with you to use the machine. If you do not have your ticket, see security personnel when exiting for a validation coupon. We will now move to item 3. Public comment during this portion of the agenda must be limited to matters on the agenda for action. The amount of time any single speaker is allowed may be limited. All comments made will be cross-referenced to those specific items. If anyone submitted a speaker card or who wishes to speak under this portion of the agenda, please come to the podium and state your name for the record. This is your opportunity to address the Council and Redevelopment Agency, but the Council and Redevelopment Agency are not able to respond or engage in dialogue. We will set the time at 1 minute. Is there anybody here that wishes to speak with the Council? Seeing nobody, we will now hear items numbers 4 and 5 together, which are both public hearings. Agenda item number 4. Item 4 is a public hearing and discussion for possible action regarding fiscal year 2026 City of Las Vegas Redevelopment Agency tentative budget and fiscal year 2026 City of Las Vegas Redevelopment Agency final budget. Redevelopment areas, Ward 1, 3, and 5, Mr. Knutson, Ms. Diaz, and Ms. Summers Armstrong. Item 5 is a public hearing and discussion for possible action regarding fiscal year 2026 City of Las Vegas tentative budget and fiscal year 2026 City of Las Vegas final budget, including the 5-year capital improvement plan. And this is for all wards. Mr. Jansen, will you commence?
Mayor Berkeley, member of City Council, Mike Jansen, City Manager, and today's presentation is a tag team with my colleagues, and I'll let them introduce themselves.
Good afternoon, Mayor and Council. Susan Helsley, Chief Financial Officer.
Steve Ford, Deputy City Manager.
Well, Mayor Berkeley, members of City Council, as you know, the road to a final budget is quite a long road. It starts in earnest. I'm going to take just 1 minute to tell you how we got here. We'll jump into the slides. The budget process for every new fiscal year really starts in earnest in January, when our team meets with all the directors to go over their needs for the upcoming year and how things worked for the present year. That is quickly followed by a meeting with our Financial Advisory Committee, which is a committee made up of business leaders in the community, economists, a group that we really rely on to bring in their temperature check on all things economic-wise. After that, our team is busy at work to put together a budget workshop for all of you in March, where we go into a whole bunch of stuff on how we're trying to build this budget. That's followed by our April tentative budget. And the April tentative budget, again, a lot more detail on how we got to that tentative budget. And here we are today in May with the final budget. So again, a lot of work between January and now, and I'd be remiss if I didn't mention the level of effort from our team, from the entire city manager's office, all the directors, and I have to say one of the best finance departments that there must be in the world, because a whole bunch of them are out there in the audience, and they are an impressive team. So with that little bit of background, this first slide, I really want to set the tone for where we are today as it relates to a number of key things that are important to all of you, I know, that are important to our residents, our business owners, and certainly our tourists. So first off, the city of Las Vegas is fiscally sound. We've done a lot of good fiscal management where we've successfully navigated the Badlands settlement. We've done that with no layoffs, and there are no layoffs. In fact, we're hiring. You look at our HR website and you'll see we are looking to fill vacancies. We've been able to maintain the programs and services that are important to our citizens, our tourists, and all of our business owners. We've protected our AA bond rating. The key to that is maintaining our 20% general fund reserve. In order to do that this year, we had to limit program expansions. We also are using strategic vacancy management, and that's our efforts to build up our general fund reserves to our preferred level is 25%. That level is what helped us navigate Badlands a lot easier than it would have been had we not been at that level previously. I have to talk about just how the city of Las Vegas continues to grow, so much so that earlier this week, the U.S. Census Bureau put out a report of the 15 cities across the entire United States that have seen the highest increase in population in their most recent 2-year cycle. And we were amongst those 15 cities. We're amongst those 15 cities because we continue to issue a whole bunch of new housing permits. Just on today's agenda, I think we had about 400 house permits during a regular city council meeting. So you'll see year to date in the fiscal year, we've issued about 2,000 house permits. And we've also, really important is our efforts with our business owners. When a business owner says, I want to come to City Las Vegas and get a business license, it's because they have faith in this city council, they have faith in our team, and they want to invest in their businesses. Almost 3,400 business licenses have been issued year to date. So again, paints a picture of how we are doing a lot of things right, and we're seeing those folks want to invest in our city. That doesn't happen if we don't keep that priority on public safety. And so you'll see there in this budget, as we've discussed in many of our briefings, public safety remains the #1 priority. I had a conversation with Fire Chief Gray about just the importance of our fire academies, where we have firefighters that are retiring, we have firefighters that are promoting, we have new fire stations, and so having a constant flow of firefighter academies is such an important part of our budget. And in this fiscal year, we're going to have 2 firefighter academies, each with about 45 recruits. Some of those recruits fall out, but the point being how important that part of our public safety program is. It's also important where we're working to fill vacancies. So you'll see right now we're recruiting today. If you looked at our HR website, you see we're looking to hire some court marshals, some deputy city marshals, and some corrections officers to fill those vacancies. Another area of public safety that's so important to so many of our citizens is the work that our code enforcement officers do and our animal protection officers. Speaking with those managers, we're approaching 100% fill on those staffing teams. Code enforcement officers, we have 2 new ones starting next month, and our animal control side of the house, they are interviewing for 1 vacancy that we have left on both a supervisor and an officer level. So again, 2 parts of our overall public safety program, we're getting it to 100% full, and that's so that we can provide those services that are most important to our community. I have to point out the work that Steve Ford's been able to do with all of you to identify capital projects that are so important to our city's continued growth, so important to maintaining assets we have, but also adding assets where we need them. It's no question, as you see in the upcoming slides, our capital plan is very strong this year. Every one of the public safety CIP projects that we've committed to, they're all moving forward. And then overall, our CIP funding this year, this is a little bit of a surprise. When we started this conversation in January, we didn't think we were going to have as good of a CIP program as we had last year. It turns out this year's CIP program is going to be even better. The reason for that is we have some bonds that are retiring, bonds from the LVCVA, where we get funding from them to build parks. That's allowing us to do a new issuance of bonds, and as Steve will show you in upcoming slides, we're going to put those dollars to work. And then also our C-Tax revenue. We don't have a lot of outstanding debts, so we're able to also issue a new C-Tax bond that Susan's going to go into in a little bit more detail. And then to end kind of just the setup slide, our RDA is in tremendously good shape, and they're benefiting the redevelopment agency that you all are the board on. The agency is benefiting from billions, and I mean billions of dollars in private investments that's allowing us to do all kinds of programs throughout the redevelopment agency area. And we'll talk a little bit more about this as we go forward in the next slide. So with that, I'm going to pass the mic on to Susan, and we'll go from there.
Thanks, Mike. Susan Helsley, CFO for the record. Before I start, I also want to have a shout out to the best finance team in the entire state of Nevada, if not possibly the world, led by Gail Doyle-Likos. Thanks for all of your hard work. I would say from between tentative and budget, these folks probably get very little sleep because we're constantly making changes and going through the numbers just to make sure we have them right. And so I'll be walking you through the major changes that we made from tentative budget back in April till now. On the expense side of it, we did go through an update for the staffing plans. There's a little bit of noise that went on with our salaries and benefits, but the major things that we changed, especially in FY25, is on the consolidated tax side. Back in April, we thought we'd have a decrease of about 1.75%. Based upon current trends and that our C-Tax is still running under what we thought we would be getting compared to last year, we decided that we would reduce that to 5.59% below last year. It comes in about $416 million versus $442 million. So going into FY26, we have increased our C-Tax from a 1% increase to a 1.5% increase. That is very, it's in the same realm as what everyone else is doing. Clark County, City of Henderson, City of North Las Vegas, all between 1.5% and 2.5%. The state's also looking at about a 2.1% increase. So the thing is, though, since we're going lower in FY25, our FY26 number is automatically lower, even though we have increased it from 1% to 1.5%. So we are seeing a little bit of a slowdown in our economy. We're also just seeing some other things going on where we think it's very prudent just to estimate that our consolidated tax will come in lower. Another thing that we took down is our license and franchise revenue. We decreased it by $1.2 million. Now, interesting enough, in our license fees, that's where our room tax lives. And we're seeing that room tax has been down too based upon tourism. So we took it down a little bit. We also had, it was really interesting. Our short-term revenues from like Airbnb and VRBO, they would send us money over the last 2 or 3 years, but they couldn't tell us who it was for. So all that went into suspense. So we had about $3 or $4 million sitting in suspense that we finally found out who those accounts were. We could recognize it as revenue in FY25, which was a big bump. So we won't be getting that bump in 26. So that's part of that $1.2 million that's been decreased. It was just a kind of a one-time ad that we had. We also recognized the revenue for our Building 2 tenant rent. As you saw this morning, Workforce Development was approved, so their rent is now in the budget going forward. So we're recognizing their rent and also their facility expenses. And Mike did mention our FY26 bond. Now, back in tentative, we thought we would put in for a $70 million bond. We're now asking for authority to do a $90 million bond. That doesn't mean we'll go forward with $90 million. We want to be able to have the ability to request the $90 million in case our consolidated tax stays where we think it will. However, if we manage to get a little bit of a bump up, we can adjust that going forward so it could be anywhere between 70 and 90 million. So that doesn't obligate us to the 90, it just gives us the authority to ask for it. And then one other thing that we did is we trued up the Metro budget. So back on April 24th, the Fiscal Affairs Committee met and they adopted their budget. So we have changed our numbers to their numbers, and they went down just a little bit. So that just was a true up there too. On the special revenue funds, not a lot of change happened in FY26. One of the things that we did do is we added appropriation authority for our community recovery funds. That's the opioid money that we get from all the pharmaceutical sales. And as you guys recall, we had gone through a big process last year to allocate the existing funds that we had, and I believe we've got six interlocals with different not-for-profits, and we got a couple internal ones. Well, it was decided that going forward, any money that we would get, we would keep it internal to use for either muni court, specialty courts, or our homeless resource center, or the recuperative care center. So we've got about $3 million in there right now that's unallocated. We're just allowing for appropriation authority to be able to spend on those internal programs. We also transferred some money out of stream maintenance into road and flood capital projects. That was $2 million, so that's a little bit of another change on the special revenue funds. And then we also have reprioritized all of our capital funds, and those were solidified with council. And as Mike alluded to, Steve will be walking you through those in a little later. So this just is the overview, if I could speak today, of our general fund revenues. We believe we're going to bring in about $852 million. And as you can see, consolidated tax is almost 50%. It will be, we're estimating $424.3 million. Just for comparison, you'll see the slide coming up. 2 years ago it was at $442 million, so we are expecting a bit of a downturn. Our property tax is our next largest, it's at 19%. And yesterday, the county gave their budget presentation. And what's really interesting is the county, their budget is almost $2.1 billion for revenue in general fund. And where we're 50% consolidated tax, they're about 43%, but their property tax is 38.6% of their budget. So they have a much more consistent budget than we do. Property tax, we receive 99.9% of those funds. People pay their property taxes very, very regularly. So you can really count on that money. So lucky for the county, they can count on almost 40% of their revenue coming in, because our consolidated tax can be a little bit bumpy. And this next slide kind of shows that. So you'll see back in FY12, we were at about $200 million for C-Tax, and it grew relatively steady up until FY18, 302, 323, then along came COVID, fell to 311, and then 2 years later, it was at 412 million. And it's peaked out at 442 million. You can see that we think we're gonna be down about 418 and then bumping up to 424. One of the things that the finance team has put together is the blue line shows what the continuous growth would have been if we'd have just stayed at 3%. Now, you got to think, 22, 23, and 24, we had a lot of stimulus money and a lot of ARPA money coming in. People were spending. So those are kind of artificial bumps. So if we'd kept along at the 3%, we'd actually be probably around $340 million. However, our 6-year average growth is 5.6%. And if we'd have grown at the 5.6, we would roughly be at 424 million. So we're kind of where we should be if we didn't have COVID. So we have to keep that in perspective. Our growth has been about 5.6%. This just goes back and kind of reiterates this is where we would be without those really bumpy things that went on. So the next slide just walks us through our FTE, our full-time equivalent history. Again, we've only added 7 positions for this year. None of those are in the general fund. They're all special revenue funds or in the ISF. And just want to highlight that since 2021, the growth in our public safety positions has increased by 9.6% versus the 4.9% for our non-public safety positions. So we are really making sure that we stay with our #1 priority of public safety. And our final 2026 general fund budget, this does include $40 million from our revenue bond. At tentative, we assumed it would be $30 million, but with the decrease in our C-Tax, we needed to up that we needed to up the bond to 40 million to keep our fund balance at 20%, as Mike said, just to protect our bond rating going forward. So our revenues are 852.8 million. You can see our expenditures are going to be higher in both 25 and 26. Don't even have to mention why that is. We're paying off the Badlands in both 25 and 26. So you can see we had a deficit budget for this year. We'll also be filing a deficit budget for FY26. And this next slide shows our forecast over the next couple of years. You can see in 23 and 24, we did have a surplus budget. A lot of that was because of the CARES money that came through. We had just a lot of money that was flowing through and a lot of things that we were able to do, and we were able to save some money. In FY25, that's where we're at right now. We're estimating a deficit of 85.3 million. Again, the majority of that is to pay off Badlands. FY26, the same thing. We have a little bit of a surplus going into FY27, and then you'll notice in FY28 to FY31, we have those fine the reds that no one likes to see. So we have a few things going on in those outgoing years. We have put in a higher than normal PERS forecast. You guys can, this past year, our PERS really shot up. It went from, we were estimating maybe a 2%, it went up 5% for our fire and, 5% on our side, almost 10. So it went up quite high on the fire and DPS side. Ours went up about 3.5% for the non-fire and DPS. So we have put in a higher than normal estimate for PERS. We also have 2 fire stations out in the out years, one in Summerlin, one in the north. So this is what is known as a potential structural deficit, when the revenues are not growing as fast as the expenses. So we'll be keeping an eye on this going forward. One of the things we can maintain costs, so we're going to have to be really cognizant of bringing back new programs, or bringing on new programs, or bringing back people, or if we can find ways to increase our revenue streams. That's how we keep out of structural deficits. So hopefully that won't happen. So that concludes my part of the presentation, and I will pass it off to Steve.
Thank you. Again, Steve Ford, Deputy City Manager. At the risk of getting myself in trouble, I'm going to amend one comment that Mr. Jansen made. The budgeting thing actually starts in October. We do a call for projects for the departments in October. The good news is in about 4.5 months, I got to hit the button. Yeah. In about 4.5 months, we'll be starting the FY27 budget process as far as the capital goes. So just kind of keep that in mind. So a couple of takeaways I wanted to point out with this. When we did the project, or the call for projects to the departments back in October, we knew that we had the possibility of having a pretty slim capital budget. And so we put some guardrails on it. And I told the departments what the criteria was that we would be selecting which capital projects we would be moving forward. And to the department's credit, they all responded very, very well to this, and they only submitted projects that met or came really close to meeting these criteria. The first one was anything to dealing with life safety. And a couple of examples, we've set aside additional money for a new fire apparatus. And for the first time ever, we're dedicating money to the Vision Zero initiative, which is the multinational transportation safety program that our Public Works group has been heavily involved in. The second thing is citizen service impacts. Anything that would impact services to the citizens, I thought was important. A couple of examples that we will be moving forward with is the municipal pool assessment to see what we need to do with the muni pool. That's been covered for, it's coming up on 25 years, and that building and the equipment is getting close to end of life, and so we need to figure out what we're doing with Muni Pool. The second one is the West Las Vegas Library remodel. As that beautiful library rendering was shown over there, the question is, what do we do with the old library? And we've put money aside so that we can remodel that to turn that into the West Las Vegas Arts Center. And so we don't want that building sitting vacant for any amount of time for obvious reasons. The third item was the cost aversion, anything that would save us money or avert lost money in the future. A couple of the big ones on that one, we're funding some additional non-functional turf replacement to save water, and coincidentally, next council meeting, there'll be almost a dozen agreements with the Southern Nevada Water Authority for the rebates for the removal of non-functional turf in many of our parks and non-park areas. The second one that is a big one, we currently have some excess water rights that we're not using, and so we are going to move those rights and develop a well at Woodlawn Cemetery. The cemetery, we know, we will be irrigating and watering the grass at the cemetery forever and ever and ever and ever and ever. That's going to be there for a while. And if we can put a well there and use our excess water rights, we will get a payback in about 8 years, is what we figure. And then we will have that water to use going forward. So those are the kinds of things that we looked at as we developed the capital program. The second item is the delayed projects, the golf course that will remain unnamed as we go forward, as we delayed or paused certain projects. After meeting with each of you, with the C-Tax bond, we've been able to restart or unpause 9 of those, and with the rest of them, the few of them either being reprioritized or canceled altogether. At the request of each of you, because that was what your priorities showed. Some of the takeaways on the park bond that was mentioned, I've got to say that everything that we do is important. The life safety, the public safety, all of that stuff is important. But one of the things that we need and we owe our citizens is a quality of life. We see all of these things that are growing in all of the improvements in RDA and the houses and all of that stuff, and that's all great and it's needed and it's wonderful, but we need to keep the quality of life for new and our existing residents going. And so after, again, meeting with each of you, these are the projects that will be moving forward with the park bond. The parks in Ward 1 and 2 and Ward 3, the Veterans Memorial in Ward 4, the master plan in Ward 5 with the phase 1 with the ball fields, and then the Centennial Hills Bike Park, which has been sitting on the shelf for a little bit. We'll be able to get that funded as well. Finally, we have our capital improvement, or the major public safety projects. As Mike mentioned, we'll be moving forward with the Fire Station 103 replacement, the new Summerlin West Fire. We hope over the next year to get that finalized in a development agreement with the Howard Hughes Corporation. The Fire Training Center in Ward 3, the Joint 911 Center in 4. The Fire Station 1 rehab, that one is important. If you recall, when the downtown access project was going to go through, that building was going to be demolished. And so the last couple of years, we've just been band-aiding a lot of stuff at Fire Station 1 and Central Fire. And so now that downtown access project has been canceled, at least for a while, we need to do something with Fire Station 1, and so we'll be doing a lot of work over there. And then, of course, the new Metro substation in the park up in Ward 6. So that's the takeaways and the projects that we'll be looking forward to over the next year or 2 or 3 as we get these projects rolling. And that concludes mine. I'll turn back over to Mike.
Okay.
Thanks. Mayor and Council, it goes without saying, Fire Station 1 is the most important station in the city, the amount of calls that Fire Station 1 sees. And as Steve mentioned, for many years, NDOT had been planning to replace the downtown access project, but the price just kept ballooning. And so right now, that project's no longer on the docket. So we felt it was imperative to put significant dollars into Fire Station 1 and get it back into the condition that it's going to need to be in for quite some time. The redevelopment agency I mentioned earlier is in a really good spot because of the amount of private investment that it's seeing, and that's allowing us to do all of these programs that you see here, programs that if your parcel is within the RDA, which is largely parcels within 1, 3, and 5, again in the established RDA area, we're able to bring redevelopment agency tools into projects. And the first one at the top is just our ongoing efforts to support the medical district and to bring Mayor Pro Tem's vision forward forward, bringing more higher education for training the medical workforce. And we've made great progress this year with our partners in CSN. As you know, we have a new training center opening in Ward 5 very soon, and we're going to do another one in Ward 3, the East Training Center, and now we've got a great partnership rolling for one in the medical district. So that CSN partnership is strong. We look forward to bringing this one to the next step. We also have a good partner in Nevada State University and Dr. Pollard and her team, who want to provide more support for juvenile allied health. And so we're really close to bringing essentially a downtown campus of NSU into the medical district. And then we've talked quite a bit about the importance of diversifying our economy, and the biomed challenge that we've talked about is making great progress to bring that particular focus area into the next level. And then our longest term partner is UNLV, as you know, and they have a new program through the practice where they'd like to expand and bring an Institute of Mental and Behavioral Health into the medical district, something that is so incredibly needed. And we're going to continue working with them through the redevelopment agency tools to try to make all these ones happen. Our jewel of our redevelopment agency certainly has been Symphony Park. We're almost done with Symphony Park. We've got a beautiful medical building coming from Scott Goldstein and his team. We've got the wonderful Elaine Wynn Las Vegas Museum of Art. How lucky we have been as a city to work with Elaine on bringing this project forward, and everyone is committed to seeing that project be something special. And then recently we had a groundbreaking for the Cello Tower with Red Ridge Development. Outside of that, there's only 1 or 2 parcels left in Symphony Park. Many RDA board meetings, all of you see the visual improvement programs. We had one on the agenda today. A program that this year's budget cycle we worked to try to make happen was the Safety and Security Grant. This was a program solely funded by ARPA funds. Those ARPA funds are gone. We're able to fund that this year with the RDA, $250,000, $5,000 per grant. That means 50 folks will be able to come before us to try to get some funds towards safety and security upgrades. We talk all about how important special events are downtown. They bring people to the redevelopment area. The big cost there is on public safety, and so we have a program where we can partner with an event planner on trying to offset some of those costs to make sure that those events are safe. Many developers downtown, what keeps them from going vertical is the cost for power upgrades. So last year we brought this program forward. And then, as you know from all of our briefings, we're working with a number of big projects on the museum front. The Mob Museum is really close to doing a huge expansion. We want to be a part of that, so we're planning to have this year a bond issuance so where the RDA can be a part of the overall capital stack. As you know, we've been working closely with the Neon Museum on either an expansion of their current facility or a relocation. Their board has not decided yet where that's going to go, but we made it clear we want them to stay downtown, and we want to be a part of that project. And then I just have up there other catalyst projects. I can tell you that our team is working with multiple different developers on a lot of exciting projects, some that we just can't announce yet, but we think this year there's going to be a whole bunch also coming to you. Our RDA contributes to street maintenance. A variety of tasks associated with that comes from the RDA. Another new program that was created this year is a vacant, abandoned, boarded up building program. We have some buildings in the RDA that are boarded up, and what we'd like to do is work with those property owners to, if there's no desire to rehab them, to demo and clear that site and make it that much more ready for redevelopment. Some properties, they do have the idea of doing a TI to bring that property back to life. So again, this will give us some opportunity to be a partner in those projects. And then periodically over the years, we foresee a need for some strategic land acquisitions. So you'll see here this year, we're anticipating using about $9 million in RDA funds to secure some strategic pieces of property that we think are catalytic to a development. I mentioned in the early slide billions of private investment in the RDA area, and that is an absolute truth. I just pulled off here what I'm calling the top 10, and these are not just projects on the drawing board. These are projects that are happening that are soon going to be opening. And that billions, you look at these projects, they really add up. Greatest partner we've had in downtown has been Southern Land. Their Capella Towers opening this fall. Adjacent to that is their mid-rise, also opening this fall. They have a project in the Arts District opening next spring. Cedar Street has a project in the Arts District opening next spring. They have a new one that's in the development stage in Medical District. We just had the groundbreak for Red Ridge's huge tower in Symphony Park. We have the Share West Side project, another project from Sam Cherry and his team that'll be opening up next spring. We have a beautiful new hotel coming to Symphony Park, opening this fall, an AC hotel by Marriott. I have to mention the El Cortez, the amount of investment that the El Cortez has done in our redevelopment area, continuous expansions, upgrades, just had a recent ribbon cut on their expansion. One of our biggest home builders, not a home builder that we've had in our redevelopment area, now they're going to be doing big projects in our redevelopment area, and that's Lennar. That is the Grant Sawyer and Cashman sites. Those PSAs are in process. And then it seems like every week I get a call from another trusted developer who's done work in the city, and they say, Mike, I've got another one I want to do. Dozens of small business owner projects, and that's why our RDA is in a really healthy position. The budget slide you see here is, again, capturing one important thing I really want you to hone in on is when you look at the tax increment growth of the redevelopment agency from FY24 to FY26, it's grown by 23.3%. That is indicative of what happens when you take a vacant parcel of land and you go vertical with a really impressive improvement. That's what's allowing us to do all those programs. That's what's allowing us to be able to issue a bond to be a part of additional catalytic projects. So as you see there at the bottom, we're going to maintain a 20% plus balance, our ending unrestricted fund balance this year. But again, the key point there is this year is where we think we'll put that bond issuance to work. When we get to all funds, when you add everything up that Susan's walked you through, that Steve's walked you through, you see all the funds together. And we mentioned earlier, this year's capital program is even better than last year's. It's $594 million. Last year it was $494. That's a really big number because it includes projects that are coming to us from the Regional Transportation Commission, from the Regional Flood Control District, our sewer fund, and then all the other projects we mentioned related to parks and other things. So very, very healthy year for our capital program. And when you add it all up, it comes out to be about $2.3 billion is our total budget for FY26 when you look at all those items. The last thing I want to mention is that city population on the bottom. So you'll see we've grown to 679. That's from that latest census data. We are a city that's continuing to grow. I know lots of cities across the country that are not growing. So we're doing the things that are important to developers, that are important to business owners, and for that effort, we're continuing to see some really good growth. To wrap it all up, here's your takeaways from this year's FY26 plan. Again, successfully navigated the Badlands settlement. Susan mentioned the PERS increases. That was a pretty big hit this year to every government agency. We're able to navigate that. And then the statewide downward trend that's been a little bit of a surprise, we're able to navigate that as well while maintaining the key point being the programs and services that our citizens, our business owners, and tourists really demand that we maintain. Public safety, as you saw, stays the #1 priority in this budget. We are being very conservative with our projections. As Susan mentioned, some of the agencies are looking at projections that are a little bit higher than us, but we feel better to be a little bit more conservative so that if there is a surprise, we're in a better position to navigate it. And what that means is we could not have program expansions this year, and our funding positions that we added, none of them were from the general fund. Our FY26 general fund budget, as Susan mentioned, we have a deficit this year, but we have a nice reserve, so we're able to lean on that to be able to cover those costs. So what's coming next? We will final this budget June 2nd, and then after that, we'll be filing our 5-year CIP in August. And as we do every year, we'll be sending all of you a link or a book, if you'd like, that just shows you what that 5-year plan looks like. As a reminder, only the fiscal year 26 is the official part of that book. The other years are really illustrative, just kind of showing what we hope we can do over a 5-year period. And with that, I think our team be happy to answer any questions you have.
Thank you so much. Given the fact this is a public hearing, is there anybody here that would care to be heard on these items? Seeing nobody, I will close the public hearing. Are there any questions and comments from our council members? Yes, Mayor Pro Tem.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you very much for the presentation. For the staff that worked on the budget, nice job. I know there's a lot of changes that happened over the last couple of months, so thank you for everything. And for the department directors who have to it is a lot of work to do this. I don't see all the department directors here, though, so only the ones that are here, thank you. I had a couple of points that I thought were important.
Good job.
The fact that how forward-thinking we are as a city, I think, puts us in this very good financial position. And I think we all sit on a bunch of different boards. And so one of the things that really makes us different is how forward-thinking we are. And Mr. Ford, you mentioned the quality of life. I don't think we can undermine how important that is, because public safety is our #1 priority. We talk about that all the time, but there are a number of things that make this community really special. And to that extent, we didn't focus in on healthcare, economic development, which is our #2 and #3 priorities. And again, I think that's what makes our city so unique, at least in Southern Nevada, is that we are very strategically focused in on a few key things. And I think the more we focus in on healthcare and economic development, at least while those remain our top 3 priorities, the more financially sound we're going to be in the future. It's that investment in that long-term thinking that public safety is right now, but thinking about the long-term impacts and how do we invest in our community so that we have a good financial picture later on. That's what makes us different than the other jurisdictions right now. They're talking about right now. Mike, you're always talking about 10 years from now. So I think that's why we're in such a good financial position, given everything that's happened over the last couple of years. And so that's just my continued ask, is that everything that's happening in the medical district is healthcare and economic diversification. If we can continue to incorporate that into our thinking, and maybe over the next little while, we start thinking about the next strategic plan for the Las Vegas City Council and the city of Las Vegas, because it's remaining laser-like focus that I think puts us ahead of everybody else. And I'm just very grateful to be part of the team, so thank you.
Anybody else? Oh.
Ditto.
Any dittos over here? Yes, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I just want to say you guys have done yeoman's work in assembling and figuring out the best path forward for us as a city, given all of the headwinds, financial headwinds that we're facing, the settlement, the PERS increasing, also the softening of the economy. But you make our job a little bit easier, and we can go to bed and actually sleep and not have to worry about how we're going to continue to provide the essential services that we as a charter are tasked with. So I'm forever grateful for all of you making sure that we're always figuring out the best path forward.
And I would also like to add my praise. Since coming to City Hall, I've been overwhelmed by the quality of the staff, the extraordinary work that everybody employed by the city performs on a daily basis. They share my values about public service and doing what's best for the people we represent. And I too feel very honored to be working with you on behalf of the people that we all represent. So thank you very much for doing a very difficult task very, very well. And with that, since I see no other comments from the City Council, is there a motion for item number 4? Mayor Pro Tem.
Madam Mayor, with appreciation to the city staff and the directors who are here, I will move to approve item number 4.
Shall we vote?
Aye.
Please post. Motion passes. And do I have a motion on item number 5?
Madam Mayor, move to approve item number 5, which is our fiscal year 2026 budget.
Thank you so much. Shall we vote?
Aye.
Please post. Motion passes. Thank you all very, very much for a job very, very well done. Agenda item number 6. Citizens' participation. Public comment during this portion of the agenda must be limited to matters within the jurisdiction of the City Council and Redevelopment Agency. No subject may be acted upon by the City Council or Redevelopment Agency unless that subject is on the agenda and is scheduled for action. If you wish to be heard, please come to the podium, give your name for the record. The amount of discussion on any single subject, as well as the amount of time any single speaker is allowed, may be limited. Is there anybody wishing to speak under this portion of the agenda? Seeing nobody, this special joint City Council and Redevelopment Agency budget meeting is adjourned. Thank all of you for hanging in. This has been a long but very productive meeting. Oh, wait a minute.